And welcome into the Tuesday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. And we are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Joe Rexrode, happy Tuesday morning to you. How are we doing? What's going on?
We're doing good. Tigers won again on national TV. White Sox lost again, and they suck.
You know, now that they don't have you picking against them every game and weekend winners, they seem to be falling apart.
Yeah, they rose to the occasion to stymie me, but that's okay. I mean, I'm not either way. I'm going to eat the hot honey pepperoni pizza. So you know, if I have to buy it this time, it's fine.
Ian Safar, how we doing? What's going on?
Oh, doing great, thanks. Just another beautiful sunrise on the way in today. So happy Tuesday to everybody.
Ian, have you ever had the hot honey pizza?
I have not.
I'm looking forward to this.
Where is this from?
Well, we're not giving free ads, man.
Okay. Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit like what's on the pizza?
Pepperoni and it's like hot honey. I mean, I've actually bought a frozen pizza since then, and they sell you can get this frozen like hot honey pepperoni pizza.
Okay.
So it's I don't know how new of a thing is. It's probably just a few years old, I guess.
Yeah.
But man. Yeah.
The
I mean, it's basically just a pepperoni pizza. Yeah, it's got this hot honey drizzle on it. And
sounds pretty good.
Pretty strong, man.
Yeah. I'm down.
If anybody out there wants to guess where this is from, you're welcome to on the text line. I can confirm for you.
We will take your guesses on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. We got a whole lot to get into today on the program. Scott Docterman from The Athletic will be with us at 7 o'clock. He came out with a piece yesterday at The Athletic, which we will discuss later this hour, about the best rivalries in college football. And it's got the people going out there. Some I agree with, some not so much. But Docterman will join us at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, I'm sure we can get into it with him. But one thing he ranked the top 100.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. But our graphic that we put out with it was the top 25. And 26 was, I think, West Virginia, Pittsburgh. So West Virginia fans thought he didn't rank them at all. Rank that right. So apparently he has heard many, many things from many, many West Virginia fans in the last day. So,
hey, good to know that the Mountaineer fan base is fired up, baby.
Yeah, I forget what that one's called. West Virginia Pitt.
Got to ask Narduzzi.
Border war. Yeah. I don't know.
Friend of the show, Narduzzi, get him on this program and he could tell us.
Yeah, that's true. See what he thinks about that ranking.
Yeah. Jordan Matthews will be with us at 8 o'clock. Got a lot of things to get into with him, and they've got a really cool event coming up this weekend that we'll touch on as well. So former Vanderbilt wide receiver Jordan Matthews will be with us, and he's still chugging along in the NFL. Now as a tight end, Joe. Pretty impressive stuff, the position switch along the way.
Yeah. Trying to stick, bigger, and obviously had good career as a receiver, great player Vanderbilt, and now a tight end. We've seen other receivers try to do that. It's a tough transition, but he's giving it a go.
We'll take your thoughts in the meantime. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Joe, a few weeks back, we discussed some news in Major League Baseball that potentially could have an impact on Nashville at some point. So the Chicago White Sox were bought by Justin Ishbia. And as we know, we've talked about the White Sox. Jerry Reinsdorf has been the owner there and will eventually be transitioning out as Ishbia comes in. And there are some connections to Nashville through Ishbia, through Vanderbilt, and all these different things. So as you look at the future of Major League Baseball in Nashville, it feels like we've talked about this forever, of when is Major League Baseball coming to Nashville? Major League Baseball wants to come to Nashville. Expansion to Major League Baseball. Could that happen here in Nashville? We've talked about all these things, and the thing that I keep coming back to is who's paying for all this? Because they've put together this group with the Nashville Stars that we've talked about, we've looked at, but they've always been missing like the huge billionaire as a part of it that pays for the expansion fee. Who knows what that looks like with the ballpark, all these different things that you have to worry about as an owner. I've always said Yeah, who's paying for that? Who's the billionaire that they've got coming in to be a part of this? Well, this would not be expansion. This would be the White Sox moving from Chicago to Nashville. So, number one, you take care of that on the expansion part of things. And number two, this is the billionaire that you're talking about here. So, we brought this up a few weeks ago. As you've kind of dug more into it and as you look at it, how realistic do you think this is that one day the White Sox will not be in Chicago and they will be moving here to Nashville, Tennessee?
So I'm gonna make a prediction, I guess. Am I gonna make a guarantee? Yeah, whatever, right? I mean, I'm not reporting anything right now, so I want to make that clear. Not reporting anything. I'm also talking right now based on non-zero conversations that have happened recently. But again, there's so many twists and turns ahead with the White Sox, with Chicago, with the stadium, with Nashville, et cetera, et cetera. But we talked earlier, as soon as Ishbia, this news broke, Justin Ishbia, a guy who has a degree from Vanderbilt, has a stake in Nashville SC.
Yep.
There's a connection. I believe that the White Sox will be the Nashville White Sox someday. It's, we're talking years down the road. There's a transition for him to even become majority owner, but that's my prediction. And I feel pretty good about it. I mean, given again, with all the caveats in place, you don't know what's going to happen. There is, there's a new stadium thing that has to happen in Chicago. And if it does, then it does. But so part of the prediction is based on that not working out.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that goes into this. I mean, there's already been a lot of speculation reporting around it. I believe that I believe it's going to happen. I think this is going to be the baseball team, the Major League Baseball team that comes to Nashville. And Chicago, I mean, look, a few years ago, there were people talking about, wow, the White Sox might be the team that, more popular than the Cubs. I mean, some of this is cyclical with the nature of your team. I've never bought that. I mean, I think Cubs are a more popular team. Right now, at this moment, they're a much better team. They're a team that's going to be in the postseason. White Sox are cheeks. So at this moment in time, it's easy to look at that and say, well, that'll never happen again. So, again, things are cyclical. But, Reinsdorf, by the way, met with Freddie O'Connell.
Correct.
Too. Now, people.
That was in 2023.
That was in 2023. Then after the meeting, they very much, downplayed, O'Connell's comms director said it was, just introductory in nature, et cetera, et cetera. But still, I mean, if at the very least right now, I mean, Nashville is your threat city, right? Like this happens all the time in pro sports. It's like, well, we can go there if you don't give me what I want, right? So like that's at the very least, that's the case. And certainly Rob Manfred has made it very clear that he would love Major League Baseball in Nashville. Like you said earlier, it's just a matter of, okay, you can have a group that advocates for it. You can put together pretty illustrations of what a stadium would look like. You can have MLB want you, but who is the billionaire?
Right.
And one of the top prime candidates is about to be, or is the owner of the Preds now. So,
yeah.
So a lot of that stuff is great, but like, how do you actually make it all come together? I think this is how it all comes together.
Well, with the new agreement that has been made with the White Sox, with Ishbia taking over, I don't think that even happens until 2029. So Reinsdorf is not relinquishing control until 2029. So there's still some time here before this transition even happens. When it does happen, that part of it is going to be really interesting. Like you said, do they find a way to build a new stadium in Chicago? Because if they do, well, there's your answer right there. If not, and that continues to be a sticking point, how quickly could this happen? That's going to end up being the question. Now, I think I'm looking at the story that Newsweek put together on this about a month ago, and it's talking about 2029 is when the shares in the team will be given to Ishbia, and he can take a full control sometime between 2029 and 2033. So again, we're talking pretty far down the road here as it relates to
Yes.
like it's not happening next year.
No.
That the White Sox could be on the move. But Joe, as we sit here today, again, without having some billionaire that we don't know about yet step up and want Nashville expansion to happen in Major League Baseball, as we sit here today, this is probably the best path to Major League Baseball actually coming here, in my opinion, because of the structure that would then be in place at that point.
Right. Yeah. Now, look, my colleague at The Athletic, John Greenberg, columnist in Chicago, has written a lot about this, talked a lot about this, and a point that he's made, and it's probably worth at some point having him on. He's all over this, but a point he has made is that Ishbia, again, this is Justin, this is Matt's little brother.
Yep.
And people I know through other people. I mean, I covered Matt at Michigan State, but Justin, his younger brother, who's net worth of $4.3 billion right now. He is building this ridiculous, incredibly opulent mansion like in Chicago. So that's one of the things Greenberg points to is that, for people who think like this is, like this is just like a formality of bringing the team to Nashville, keep that in mind. I would also say, when you're a billionaire, you can build opulent homes in various parts of the world. And
That's true.
Ryan, I think that Reinsdorf, very much, he's already not an all that popular guy with Chicago sports fans.
He is not.
Yeah, I don't think he wants his legacy to be like the guy who sent the White Sox packing to Nashville. And again, there are stadium. The lease at Rate Field, which is a not a great place. And I've been to several games there. It's out in 2029, and then so is there movement, public money there right now? It's basically like, nah. So again, the hope is, okay, this guy who's super rich put his own money in, and but as we know with these billionaires, a lot of times like, yeah, I could, or this place actually will give me public money. So like there's a lot of things that may or may not happen here in this situation. When I look at the whole thing, I could see very easily how it ends up winding its way here.
So what do you make of that? What do you make of the idea of the Chicago White Sox eventually ending up in Nashville? Is that the best path to Major League Baseball ending up here in our city? We'll take your thoughts on all that. 615-737-1025, our phone number. 615-737-1025. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. Discussing the idea of the Chicago White Sox eventually ending up here in Nashville, which at the moment looks like it may be the most likely path, realistic path to Major League Baseball, ending up here with the current structure. Unless there's a billionaire, unless Joe Rexrode finally decides to get off his money and just buys the team and the expansion fee, which I've been begging him to do for years. And he's shown no willingness to do it yet. Unless he does that, this could be the path here of getting the White Sox to move. It is amazing. So I was curious. I knew it was a long time ago. I wanted to see exactly when. Like, when did the Chicago White Sox start playing in Chicago? The answer is 1900. It was a long time ago. 1900.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Yeah, that would be it'd be quite a move. I mean, I'm trying to think of franchises that are identified with a place that moved. Like what's the most iconic? Like it's to think about any of the New York teams moving out. Well, I mean, I guess you'd go back to the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Yep.
And you go back to the New York Giants. Moving out to California. I mean, that's probably the comparison, but that's what, 1948 or something or whatever it was, right? Like, so it's just, it was half a century after baseball basically became a national sport, not now well more than a century.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know what else would compare to something like this in sports.
That's 125 years in the same spot.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Yeah. Like, and Chicago has lost other teams too. I mean, like, the Cardinals franchise in football was actually a Chicago, but again, it's just not. This is Chicago. This is, and Chicago is a city that can have, two teams. New York obviously has two and everything, right? I think, yeah. Yep. I mean, basically, Brooklyn Nets. So, but Chicago
New York Islanders, yeah,
that's right. Yeah, right. And then you can, if you want to include like the Devils, really, it's like a 3 hockey market, right? But this is the one thing Chicago has 2 of. And you can make the case that with the shifting of population that this city right here should have. You can make a case for an MLB and NBA team, but that you look at what it'll look like in the 2030s. And again, this would be now it would be almost 20 years then since it really started getting discussed seriously. If you go back to when those guys came here and started beating the drum. That's a long time. Maybe something else emerges in the meantime. Certainly that's possible.
For a while we all thought it was going to be the Rays.
Right. The Rays thing was real as a possibility. They got what they wanted. So I think it's certainly possible that, but I also feel like that time frame, it's a little bit long, but I also feel like that, then it's, it's obviously figuring out where the stadium would go, which I think is fascinating. The Nashville Stars group, I forget exactly what the name of their group was. They were big. They had the mock-ups with, let's share this spot with the Titans and all this stuff. The Titans like, nah, we're good. Yeah, we're gonna move forward. Thanks. Good luck. There's the site around TSU.
Yep. There's
definitely a lot of talk about Antioch as a possibility. There's talk about Franklin as a possibility. So where would it work best? A lot of things to figure out in the meantime. We'll see. Again, it could happen faster, but I do feel like, it's not a bad thing to have a little bit of time to figure this whole thing out too. It's a big deal.
Let's head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Roy to the program. Roy, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Hey, good morning, guys. I think it'd be great, but what's even crazier to think about, you're saying 2029 whenever the ownership changes officially, that's quite a few years away, and you look at trying to find a place for a stadium and get one built. I mean, that's even going to be even longer, probably, early 2030s, 2034, 2035. But what's even crazier, if this happens with all our other professional teams, it's scary to think about, but you get Major League Baseball here, and things go the right way, you may see a World Series, World Championship team played here in Nashville before any of the other teams have a chance to even win one. I don't know, but it's wild. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Wow, I didn't know
God,
it was
I
going
hope
that
not.
way.
I certainly hope not.
That's possible.
I hope 2036 is rolling around and we're like, well, the Titans and the Preds have not even sniffed it in the next 10 years.
Titans have drafted 5 more QBs at number 1 overall. And keep trying. Preds still looking for a centerman.
Yeah, it's like, wow, they still hadn't found one of those, huh? It's hard to find. in the NHL.
Yeah, boy, that's depressing. I didn't know
Yeah.
it would turn that way.
It is depressing. Look, I will say this. As somebody who is unaffiliated in Major League Baseball, like I don't have a team that I watch. And frankly, throughout the course of a 162-game baseball regular season, my grand total of baseball that I watch per year is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about 45 minutes. So that's just where I'm at on it with Major League Baseball. I don't have a team. I will watch a little bit more as the playoffs come around. And, but, frankly, I've talked about this before, and I know baseball purists hate this. But by the time the World Series has come around, my focus is completely shifted to football and hockey, and I just don't really care anymore. So all that to say, if the White Sox came here, I've never even considered being a White Sox fan, a Chicago White Sox fan. I'd pick it up immediately if they were here in Nashville. Like they would immediately become my team.
Yeah. So Bob on YouTube chat said, what are the exact chances you give this of happening? I may have missed it. I think it's going to happen. So now we get into see if you think something's going to happen. That doesn't mean you think 100% that it's going to happen. Do I have to revisit that stupid conversation? Let's not do that. 53-47. All right. 53-47, Bob. There you go. Official number.
53-47. I like that.
53-47 that as of, the mid 2030s, it's the Nashville White Sox and not the Chicago White Sox.
Okay.
And, for me, I think I've said this. I always bounce around on which teams I've hated the most. The Boston Celtics of that era, the Larry Bird, Boston Celtics, Danny freaking Ainge. God, don't even get me started. But then again, man, those Avs with Patty Roy, Claude Lemieux. But then I think about AJ freaking Przinsky and those damn Chicago White Sox of 20 years ago. And I hate all Chicago teams except the Cubs. But definitely the White Sox just absolutely, I just despise the White Sox. I think I might be almost as big a fan of the Nashville White Sox as the Detroit Tigers if they become because they're ripping them away from Chicago.
That's
it's
true.
just an amazing thing to think about.
That's
so
true.
It would be very close. And then the question is, if they do become the Nashville White Sox at some point, are they staying in the same division?
That'd be awesome.
Or do they move things around? I mean, it would make. I mean, the AL Central is it's regionally. It's not like ridiculous.
Not that much different. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like the Arizona Cardinals in the NFC East or whatever.
Or UCLA and the Big Ten.
Yeah. Well, there's that too. Let's not even get into college sports. So I think, it'd be like my 2 favorite teams would be competing with each other in the same division.
Yeah.
What a dream.
It is a dream. Double Door in Memphis says, with the recent increase in Tennessee's Braves country commercials, are the Braves trying to increase the possibility of a large territorial invasion payment from a Nashville team? Also, Plaster on your sister station says he's heard rumblings about the Tennessee State Prison as a site for the baseball stadium. So there you go.
Okay.
I have heard that.
Yeah.
I have heard George talk about that.
Yeah. All right. So it's happening. We all agree. Get excited. Nashville, just wait a while is the only thing. And if you're an avid baseball fan here, is like, really? I have to wait till the mid 2030s? Again, something else could pop up in the meantime.
Well, yeah, something else could pop up in the meantime. But I mean, to that point, nothing is really that much closer to popping up now than it was a couple of years ago, right? Like there's still, if you're hoping for expansion, there's still a pretty hefty missing ingredient in that when the billionaire, right? Like you need the big time finance the big time billionaire behind all this, and that's still missing in that front. So, I mean, right now, either way, you could still be looking at 10 years, regardless of which path it goes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Here's a billionaire who, by the way, I hope Vanderbilt's milking him for some NIL money too. So,
Justin, we got a lot of things to say. A lot of money for you to.
You want to
bring
your baseball team here? Well, Diego Pavia needs a new private jet.
615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll take more of your thoughts on the idea of the Chicago White Sox coming to Nashville. Plus, we will get into Scott Docterman's piece at The Athletic about the top 100 rivalries in college football, which made a lot of people mad yesterday. We'll get into all that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Check out this week's Nashville's best deal. It's Mellow Mushroom. There's no pizza like Mellow Mushroom Pizza. Stone-baked with fresh ingredients, next-level imagination, and limitless options for customization. It's a higher order of pizza. You know and love Mellow Mushroom. You can get half off a $30 gift card while supplies last at thegamenashville.com/deals. Gift card is good for downtown on Broadway and the Franklin locations as well. So check that out at thegamenashville.com/deals. We will have Scott Docterman coming up at 7 o'clock from The Athletic, and we're going to get into his piece coming up here in just a few minutes as it relates to the best rivalries in college football, because, man, did that make some people mad yesterday.
Me included with one thing in particular.
Brandon on YouTube says, what happens first, Pope Leo on Broadway celebrating a Nashville White Sox World Series, or Josh Heupel firing anyone on his staff? It always comes back to Heupel and Ellerby with Brandon on YouTube.
Well, is Brandon, is it just the one coach he wants fired, or does he want other coaches fired too?
I don't know. We'll have to figure that out.
We know who he definitely wants fired.
Yes. Hey, look, again, the White Sox part of this, I'm all for. Now, I did get a text from my dad, who asked an interesting question. Well, I think I know the answer, but I'll ask it anyway. You know, if the White Sox are coming here, are you keeping the name, or are you changing it and going Sounds? I would assume they're keeping it, given the history of the franchise. But there will be some fans here that are like, call it something else other than the White Sox.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, it is funny when you go back to when these teams were named the Red Sox, SOX.
Yeah.
The White Sox. What the hell? What kind of team name is this? You know, you're just used to it, so it's just ingrained in your. But it's like, really? It's like, but that was back when like everybody had to have a nickname. Like, hey, I'm John Bubbles Jenkins. You know, so it's just like how life was different. Yeah. So I don't know. That's a good question. You could, the Sounds, the Stars, you could change it. I don't know. I kind of just feel like,
boy, would that really make people mad in Chicago if you brought them from Chicago and then changed the name? Or would it? Would they prefer that?
Maybe they'd prefer that just so they don't have to think about the fact that the White Sox now don't play, but they play in a different city. I don't know. That's another one like of these franchises that have moved. I mean, again, it's like my favorite one is the New Orleans Jazz, which totally makes sense, becoming the Utah Jazz, where they've never played a Jazz record ever in the history of the state.
The Lakers.
Yeah, from Minneapolis, where there's a lot of lakes, to
L.A.,
Los Angeles, where it's a desert with on the ocean. Yeah, right. But they kept it, so I would assume it would be kept. What's the biggest like name? Obviously, here we have a name change.
Yep.
We have Oilers to Titans, so we've seen both. That's a good question. We have plenty of time to figure that one out.
Remember when the Hornets were the Bobcats or whatever for like 2 years?
Yeah. Well, they were like the Hornets, then they became the New Orleans Hornets.
Yeah, and then the Charlotte Bobcats, and now they moved back to the Hornets. All this other stuff.
It's the New Orleans Pelicans.
Yeah. By the way, also not a great name.
Yeah,
the Pelicans.
Really. Yeah. Well, everybody's afraid of
terrified. It's a pelican.
Oh my gosh! It just scooped up a fish.
Interesting thoughts.
Yeah.
I for one can't wait to see, in 2040, Rexrode running around at an ALCS here in Nashville between the Tigers and the Nashville White Sox. What a time that'll be.
Yeah, that's something to think about. How old will I be then? How bad would the gout be by then? Jeez.
He's had 15 years and
covered in gout.
Wow. He's got gout in his face. It's unbelievable.
Oh, God. Sorry I keep bringing gout up.
Ian, would you be all in immediately if the White Sox moved here?
Probably not immediately.
Okay.
It might take me a little bit, but just like it kind of did with the Titans and the Preds.
Yeah.
Although it was a, different time back in the day, different fans, different teams, and moving here and all that kind of stuff in the 90s. So it took me a little bit.
And you have a baseball allegiance?
Not really. No.
Not a New York.
That's why it would be so easy for me.
Yeah, not really. That would definitely help. You know, that there's no team here yet, so I haven't really attached to a team. I kind of grew up watching all types of different baseball teams. And I was kind of really scattered. And over the years, it's kind of, disassociated myself with all that kind of stuff, given the distance and not being able to watch them.
Yeah.
So it probably wouldn't take too long.
I mean, this is more Braves country than anything, right?
It is. Like, I would say the Braves are definitely number one around here. And then it's probably some combination of the Cardinals and Reds after that.
Yep.
So I would love to know, if this happens, how many Braves fans out there, Cardinals fans out there, Reds fans, whatever, would drop whatever team they've got, or maybe drop's too strong of a word, but they would be White Sox fans in addition to being Braves fans, or White Sox would become number one and like Braves would be 1A or 2 or Cardinals or whatever.
I do know a hardcore Cardinals fan, my nephew's grandfather on his dad's side.
Yeah.
He big Cardinals fan. And he said if Nashville gets a baseball team in the next 5 years, he'll be a founding season ticket member.
Okay.
I still believe, though, maybe not for him, but I would guess a lot of people like that. Still, it's like, I mean, this is now their number 2 team, right? Which is fine. I mean, I think that happened with the Preds to some extent too, right? Yeah. I know, a lot of people from Michigan,
Pred Wings
down in Spring Hill, and it's like, okay, well, rooting for the Preds, go to the Preds. Still, like, the Red Wings are, your team, but this is, and if you're a lot of people's number 2 team, that's not bad.
No, I mean, it's a start.
Get people, watching you come to the games and so on.
Well, I know, like, a lot of those, I don't know, I can't put an exact percentage on it, but I know for a fact, because I've talked to them, that some of those people that were here, that were Detroit Red Wings fans, that bought Predator season tickets and rooted for the Predators when they weren't playing the Red Wings, are now just exclusively Predators
bigger
fans.
Preds
Like,
fans. That's interesting.
For the Preds.
Yeah. I guess that's
although lately that's probably been, not a whole lot going on in Detroit lately.
Yeah, well, right. That's the thing. It's kind of fair weather of them, but I get it too, because it's been a long, hard road.
William says, hardcore Reds fan. I'd still have to keep the Reds at number 1, but yeah, the Sox would be at number 2. Why not at that point? Logan says Cardinals would 1A, but 100% would back whatever team comes to Nashville. And Ty says, being here, I'm more of a fan of players rather than a team. Being a huge sports fan, I've never been to an MLB game. I'll definitely hop on board if we got a team. I've thought about this. The season ticket part of it for me would be hard, just because, like, I don't know that I have interest in going to a baseball game like every day throughout the course of a summer. Some people love that stuff. Yeah. There are some people, like, I know people that are season tickets holders in like Cincinnati and season ticket holders in Atlanta, and they love like the idea of like how many times you get to just go to the ballpark in the summer. So I get it. Like, I understand there's a market there, but I think the casual sports fan being able to just go check out a ball game, if you've never done it, like, even if you're not a huge baseball fan, I love the idea of just going to the park and hanging out.
Yeah, and one of the big things that the baseball group that was really active here has been active here. Dave Stewart and those guys. One point they made is that the tourism industry is so strong here. You're going to have a lot of people just in town. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I've done that a lot. I mean, shoot, I think we've both been to like baseball games, like when Preds are in the playoffs at
St.
different
Louis,
places. Yep. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I think that's another thing too that definitely would be something to keep in mind. Joy from Bellevue says, with the way the Braves have been playing, it wouldn't be as hard to switch. Let me tell you something, Braves fans. You spoiled children, Braves fans. Oh, no. One down year? My God. I mean, I remember when the Braves were absolute trash other than Dale Murphy for like a long time. And like really for about 35 years now, you're talking a lot of success. So count your blessings, Braves fans.
615-737-1025.
Switch to the Nashville White Sox.
Our phone number. We will get into Scott Docterman's piece at The Athletic on the best rivalries in college football. Docterman himself will join us at 7 o'clock. So looking forward to all that. That coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We'll be joined by Scott Docterman from The Athletic coming up at 7 o'clock. And he has come out with a piece at The Athletic yesterday ranking the top 100 rivalries in college football. And let me start by saying this, Joe. Anytime you do this or something like this, you are inevitably going to make many people mad, right? Like when you put together these type of lists, somebody's going to always feel slighted. There's always going to be some level of disrespect that somebody believes that you've shown to them, their team, their program, their fan base, all these things.
Of course.
So first off, I commend Scott Docterman because ranking 100 of these is very difficult. Like, I mean, we're talking there's Georgia Southern and App State on this thing. MTSU made the list with Western Kentucky. Like, you're going pretty in depth here when it comes to the top 100 rivalries in college football. I mean, you know, Richmond and William and Mary are on the list.
Hell yeah.
That's what we're doing. I mean, this is pretty good stuff by Docterman as it relates to like the how in depth he's gone with this. And I will say there are some that I look at on this list and I'm like, I don't know. I mean, the one that really stands out to me, and I realize that they've been playing against each other forever, but he's got Minnesota and Wisconsin at number 10 on the top 100 rivalries in college football.
That's my sticking point too.
Alabama and Tennessee's at number 11, which means that Minnesota, Wisconsin, apparently a better rivalry than Alabama and Tennessee. It's hard for me to get there, but that's what he's got on this list. I mean, you're not going to be surprised by like the top two rivalries. It's Michigan, Ohio State, and Auburn, Alabama, which I think pretty much universally across the board in some order, it would probably be that.
Although apparently John Reed does not.
John Reed in Knoxville does not have Auburn, Alabama in that mix. He had, I think it was Michigan, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Texas at 2, and then Tennessee, Alabama at 3.
Okay. Sure.
I mean, even as somebody who loves the Tennessee-Alabama rivalry, I mean, the Auburn-Alabama one is things get a little weird down there when that rivalry comes around.
Yeah. No, it's look, there's a lot of the thing is that he actually writes. Dr. also writes an explainer column too, but there's a lot of different factors taken into account. And I will say two things I didn't know about Minnesota, Wisconsin. One is, like you said, they've played more than anybody. I didn't know that. 134 meetings is more than anyone else, and they're 63, 63, and 8. They are exactly dead even right now. So, and that's part of the thing. Like, how close is it? How extensive is it? Alabama, Auburn, for people who don't know, they actually decided to stop playing each other. I guess they hate each other so much, and like during World War I, and finally, like Alabama, the state legislature made them start playing again in like the 50s. So, you know, that's actually a great little tidbit of hate, but also it means that you miss like 35 meetings compared to. So, you know, if you're going through all the different categories, those two speak in their favor. I am from Big Ten country and have covered Big Ten football and have almost never given a rat's behind about that game ever. I mean, like, I don't even like, I just like it's a cool, like the Paul Bunyan's axe thing is cool. That's a cool trophy for sure. The axe is probably one of the cooler ones. But then again, to me, I'm trying. Oh my gosh, I don't want to get this wrong. I think it's Iowa, Minnesota, right? The pig trophy is better anyway.
Yeah.
Floyd of Rosedale, which is like the pig trophy. I think that's Iowa. I want to make sure that I have this right because Docterman covered Iowa forever. But like that's a better trophy even than the Bunyan's axe.
Well, look, I know a lot of Wisconsin fans, and I can tell you they hate Minnesota. Like they do not like the Golden Gophers. It is funny though. Like one of the things that Docterman puts in here is like his biggest game between the two rivals. And you can go all the way through this, like Florida State, you know, it's talking 1996 when it was 1 versus 2. And you know, Tennessee, Alabama was 2022, their matchup in Knoxville that we all remember. Minnesota, Wisconsin is like in the 1962 season finale, number 3 Wisconsin hosted number 5 Minnesota. So not a whole lot of high profile games between those two.
Yeah. College football historians know Minnesota used to be a great program. Fritz Chrysler coach. I mean, they won the 1960 national championship. But like from the 70s on, they've kind of stunk. I mean, Glenn Mason got him going a little bit. PJ's rowing the boat a little bit now.
PJ on a dead sprint out there in midfield.
But they've basically sucked for half a century. Wisconsin, and I was like in the 70s and 80s, Wisconsin and Minnesota, they played every year. Like it was like the toilet bowl game.
Yeah.
Wisconsin then got good. Barry Alvarez, I mean, he's one of the great coaching jobs in college football history to me, to turn them around to that extent. But then that's the thing. Then they dominated Wisconsin, or they dominated Minnesota, So it's like, I mean, I get that. Like it is bitter. It is long running. The 63, 63, and 8 is compelling. So I put it about 57.
Tennessee, Florida at number 36 on this list, by the way.
Yeah, and that's, Tennessee, Florida, 25 years ago, 30 years ago. To me, I would argue like in the 90s. I mean, Michigan, Ohio State was still great, but I would argue that Tennessee, Florida, into the Spurrier, Fulmer, all that stuff.
Mid-90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, you could make the case that was the number one rivalry in college football. I would probably make the case that number one was actually Florida State, Miami.
Yeah.
Florida State, Miami every year was like 1-2. I mean, it was incredible. And then I would also argue that Florida State at the same time with to me as a general fan, hated Steve Spurrier, love him now, but like at the time I was like, that cocky visor, and then Bowden is everybody's grandpa, right? Yeah. So you love Bowden, at least that's how I felt. And every year, I mean, they usually put it at the end of the year, and it was usually high stakes nationally, So it's the cyclical nature. I mean, Scott has Nebraska, Oklahoma 6, and at first I was like, man, but again, if you're going through history and you're going through the impact of the games, I remember when Nebraska, Oklahoma every year was very much like it was national championship implications, plus, a border rivalry and all that stuff. I mean, so I have less of an issue when you look at the whole methodology he used of that still being that high. Also makes me really sad. That is a great example of how college football has screwed itself up by losing a rivalry like that one.
There's one on here that I was interested to see where it was, because if you're going by officially how much the two teams and the two programs hate each other, it'd be pretty high on the list. There's never really that much at stake when it comes around. But the Egg Bowl, I was wondering where that would be. Ole Miss and Mississippi State, 23, which I guess is about right. I mean, they absolutely despise each other.
Yeah,
but the stakes are never really
that high at
the end of it.
Yeah, I agree. It's an incredible, moments. I mean, the lifting the leg as an all-timer,
sure was.
But yeah, like typically not huge stakes. Look, if you want to talk about hating each other, I mean, I would put Michigan State higher than 16. I mean, I think it's as toxic and hateful a rivalry as there is. I mean, I think it's right there with Alabama Auburn in terms of like people. It's sports. Like, can we really? It's sports. You're rooting for kids.
Can you calm
playing
down?
Football, please.
We had a love fest. We all kind of gathered around. We hugged each other.
There you go.
See, look, Izzo's trying to come in and bring the peace.
Oh,
to
yeah.
that rivalry.
He loves Michigan.
Sure he does.
I don't like that.
Ron asked, where's Army Navy? And that's I think what, fourth?
It's fourth.
Army Navy. Look, I can make the case for that number one. I take a case for that number one in terms of the history of it. And look, Army Navy, by the way, is not the case anymore, but we are talking history and we're talking compiling. Army Navy used to be a national championship implications game on a regular basis too. Let's not forget that. It's not anymore. But it's four. There are people who would argue that should be way down the list. It's great tradition and all that, and there are people who would argue put it number one. I'm good with where he has it. I think it needs to be real high.
I could probably go down the list on that one.
Go down the list a little bit on that one.
I'm not saying it needs to be like 50, but I could, like 9, 10, somewhere in that neighborhood. Okay,
that's fine.
I mean, and the reason is like, if the stakes are going to matter in these, I mean, that one doesn't really have national implications anymore. Like, when's the last time the Army-Navy game had national implications in terms of, these two are like competing for a championship over here?
Yeah. I mean, you may be going back to, you definitely would be like Roger Staubach era, like 60s. You might be going to the 1960s, probably. Yeah. I mean, Army in particular, an absolute college football power for
long time.
Yeah. Well, well into the 60s. The Navy had with Staubach was too. So, yeah, but I don't think once you got into the 70s, I could be wrong. There may be one here or there, but not many.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Bottom line, very fascinating piece that has caused a lot of discussion that Scott Docterman has put together at The Athletic. And we'll have him on coming up next to talk more about it. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. We just discussed Scott Docterman's piece at The Athletic on the 100 best rivalries in college football. And to help us talk more about that, we welcome in the man himself on our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Scott Docterman of The Athletic joins us now. Scott, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys. How's it going this morning?
You're doing awesome, man.
Good.
Really appreciate you taking time to be with us. So I want to start just from the standpoint of the work required to put this together. I mean, we were talking about it in the last segment. I mean, this is not just Tennessee, Alabama, and Florida State, and Auburn, Alabama. And we're talking Richmond and William and Mary is in here, New Mexico State. So what was this like putting this together? And how much time did this take you to really kind of go all encompassing with this and rank these 100 rivalries?
My gosh, I probably started it back around the time of the NCAA tournament when me and Matt Brown, the editor, started talking about putting this piece on putting it together. So then after that, I started researching each and every rivalry and every conference, and I have my own Excel files on things like series records and what have you. So really, I got into it though probably in May, and that was I wanted to get involved more than just again the games with names and the games that are historic, and really start to dig into some of the other factors and make this a little somewhat controversial. But I wanted to peel away some of the most important, some of the most recognizable aspects of this, and that was a lot of cases the names, the backyard brawl, the Holy War, the Civil War, the clean old-fashioned hate, Cyhawk, all those things. I wanted to throw those kind of to the side. And so when I started to research it, I wanted to look at how many times have they met as ranked teams? What's the disparity in these series? How many times have they played as top 10 teams? When the stakes are high, and then because when you start to get into this, and I think the most difficult aspect for me when I started ranking them, because I went from 100 to 1 as opposed to the other way around, was when I got to about the mid-30s through about the mid-teens, you've got border rivalries and you've got in-state rivalries, and they're all equally passionate, which of course some fans aren't realizing right now who are coming after me. but it's like, hey, we hate each other at the Holy War and the backyard brawl more than they do in Minnesota, Wisconsin. I'm like, no, they don't. You hate each other equally. Now let's see why your rivalry is less than, greater than the others. And that's why I wanted to take a look strongly at some numbers, because it's hard to differentiate between, Joe, you were around when Michigan State, you know how intense that is. You're also around Tennessee, Alabama, and you've seen Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and on and on and on and on. So I wanted to kind of give them, some subjectivity and objectivity to go along with the subjectivity. And so that's when it really got deep, and it was quite the challenge towards the end.
So who's most pissed at you in the last 24 hours? West Virginia fans or anybody else competing with them?
BYU.
Okay.
Yeah. West Virginia was early. I actually went on a West Virginia podcast and talked it through, and maybe agreed to disagree, but, kind of explained my rationale because, and I'll say this, like the Holy War. And I think this is where fans kind of get their emotions get away from them. They start getting into the games with names, like, how can you leave out the Holy War? How can you leave out the backyard brawl? Well, and I'm like, I'm trying to rate it as Pitt, West Virginia, and Utah, BYU, and like Utah, BYU, they've had a total of 3 games where both teams were ranked, none in the top 10. Only 25 games where at least one team was ranked, and I'm comparing that to, say, Michigan State, where 19 games both teams were ranked, 5 in the top 10, and 65 games at least one team was ranked. So how do you compare that? It's like they hate each other, you hate each other. I'm going to go with the rivalries that the games actually matter beyond your state border. And so I would say BYU is number 1, and then probably West Virginia number 2.
So, Scott, one of the things we talked about on this list was Alabama and Tennessee coming in at number 11. And if you're a Tennessee fan, obviously, I mean, there's a deep-seated hatred when it comes to Alabama. So what did you make of kind of that rivalry, putting it in the spot that you did? And you got Minnesota, Wisconsin just ahead of it at number 10. What did you make of kind of Alabama and Tennessee and where they stack up in terms of the rivalry?
Those two are so different. It made it really difficult to go between them. And again, where you live probably matters to where you would rank it. And with Alabama, Tennessee, it ended up, I think it was number 4 or 5 in terms of games where at least one team was ranked. And historically, I had somebody, really kind of come at me about Alabama, LSU should have been higher than Alabama, Tennessee. And I said, well, the historical impact of Alabama, Tennessee, and it was the premier game in the SEC conference for, the better part of 6 decades probably, and until the 90s. And then it's still very relevant and important today, that it deserves to be ranked higher than Alabama, LSU. And in fact, because Alabama, LSU, there's a wider disparity in the number of wins versus losses. It's like 70-30 as opposed to 60-40 for Alabama, Tennessee. But with Minnesota, Wisconsin, they have the most games in FBS history. They're also tied at 63 in age, which is pretty impressive. They don't have the importance that Alabama, Tennessee broadly. However, being the historic rivalry that they are, they've played every year since 1907, and it is super intense as well. And granted, you got to take some of that into consideration, leave some of it at the curb. But I just thought that having 134 meetings, by far the most, I thought that kind of put it in the top 10. But certainly Alabama, Tennessee, Florida State, Ohio State, Penn State, which has gotten a lot of feedback, I would say, and Miami, Florida State were all in that, and Georgia, Florida, all of them were in that strong discussion. And you could probably place them, and I'm sure bias probably can come into it too, to kind of place it where you want.
Yeah, I gotta be. The only thing I really want to yell at you about is Minnesota, Wisconsin. Because Minnesota's been bad for so long. And I know that like Mason got them going a little bit, and Fleck has them going now a little bit. But like the 70s and 80s, that game would be like the toilet bowl game in the Big Ten, right? I think some of this has to do with your age, and I know Minnesota was a great power going way back, but I just feel like nationally that's a game that I don't think it ever moves. Like people in Minnesota, Wisconsin probably randomly had their eyes on Alabama, Tennessee a couple years ago, that great game. I don't know that anybody around here has ever watched a second of Minnesota, Wisconsin. So I know it's regional bias, things like that, but that one like slapped me in the face when I looked at this list.
Okay, well, that's fair. Okay, sure. Anything could be ranked differently, and again, for me, it came down to the fact that not only have they played the most games in college football history, and Minnesota, and I also took history into an account. You got to, even though Minnesota hasn't been maybe nationally relevant in quite a while, my lifetime, but it is a tied series to have that many games and be tied. Kind of elevated it past some other ones. Now, again, if Alabama, Tennessee could be 10, Minnesota, Wisconsin, you could put it in at 20 and still not get a lot of disagreement on that. Again, we're splitting hairs, but I think people probably watched them last year on Black Friday, though.
That's true. That's true. No, I mean, I've watched it some, but yeah, it's like, it's just one of those games like, the hatred's there. The trophy's great. But I just feel like it's been a while since it moved the needle. But let me ask you about that. The trying to assess the intensity, because like you said, you're trying to get numbers, as objective stuff as much as possible in here. How many times were they ranked? One team ranked, both ranked, top 10, all that stuff. How did you go about trying to assess just like intensity level / hatred, things like that? Because obviously that's a big subjective part of this.
That is really difficult. And I didn't know. There's some of it that about, but then how do you gauge it? And I had some people get upset because Kansas, Missouri was 19. And I'm like, you guys don't understand that rivalry actually began in the 1850s, and it really kind of persists today. I mean, the hate, and I lived in that area, so maybe I have experienced it firsthand, that it just never stopped. They of course they don't kill each other now, which is great, but they probably would if they had more important games. But and in basketball, they probably came close. But no, like Utah, BYU. Oh, we hate each other. It's the biggest rivalry. The backyard brawl, and and then I'm like, well, why is your rivalry more intense than Clemson, South Carolina? What about the Egg Bowl? What about Michigan State, where they literally have fights before and after the game, and they get people arrested? Players getting arrested. You have Minnesota, Wisconsin's in the same type of ballpark. Iowa State. I mean, the band marches and people punch them and grope them, and it's just. I mean, there's just so much of this. How do you gauge that? You just can't, because well, we hate each other here. Well, they do everywhere. So that's why I really had to try to be as objective as possible, which of course is, you just can't convince people of that. And then there were a couple other angles that I tried to take into it, which was trajectory. And I think that's probably why Washington, Oregon was 21. And I think it's on its way up because, a lot of the little brothers, I would say, Oregon State and Washington State, maybe were pissed about that. But I'm like, look, they've played in more ranked games than this one has. That they've been singularly ranked in top 10 more than you guys have been. And yet, they're going to be a last weekend series of the Big Ten. They're more. It's kind of like Alabama and Tennessee in some respects, where they dislike each other more than they probably do their. Well, I guess Alabama and Auburn's different, but their state rivalry, So,
but with Tennessee, that's true. Yeah, right. With Tennessee for sure. And but anyway, those are some other factors, like and some of the other things that really played into it, like the backyard brawl. Once they split leagues, and one went to the ACC and one went to the Big 12, they didn't play for 10 years. And so when you compare that to Clemson, South Carolina, for instance, they play every year. The Cyhawk plays every single year. So even though they're in opposite leagues, they continue to do this. And even though your rivalry is really intense, so are theirs. And they actually made it work. Yours didn't. So now they are, but then they have a 3-year layoff coming up. So that's again, everybody's arguing with emotion with this. So it's been pretty, it's difficult to deal with at times. You knew it was coming.
Yes, I did. I prepared for it.
Well, I want to commend you on that, because like you said, it's impossible to put a list like this together without making, most people mad. So it's awesome that you've done this. And the other thing, Scott, last thing here as we kind of let you go, the other thing that this really does, as somebody who loves college football, you look at all these games and it makes you wonder, 10 years from now, are they going to be playing all these games with where everything's going in college football? And it's a nice reminder of what college football really is all about when it gets down to the root of it.
Absolutely. We all love it. And, and it's a regional sport that projects nationally. So that makes it challenging. But man, some of these rivalries, and now that I've crossed the 50 threshold a few years ago, it's like, man, Nebraska, Colorado was so good in the 90s. Nebraska, Oklahoma, which did get a lot of feedback too, particularly from the BYU fans trying to say it wasn't a rivalry. And I'm like, open up, crack a book here, guys.
The history is, yeah.
It's so far up there. It's dormant now, but it's incredible. But no, I think we all can agree we love the sport. It's the most entertaining sport there is, even over the NFL to me, because of all this richness. And it gets people talking, and hopefully a few people will go, oh, I didn't know that was that good of a series, and maybe check it out and learn something from it.
Well, Scott, great stuff, man. Really appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning, and we'll talk to you soon. College football right around the corner.
All right. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
Yep, Scott Docterman from The Athletic, our guest on Robby and Rexrode. We'll take your reaction to what Scott had to say, plus Cam Ward talking about a teammate yesterday that sounds like he's pretty fired up about. We'll get into all that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. 1025 The Game is teamed up with Pella Windows and the Nashville Humane Association for a puppy pet adoption this Saturday at Pella, 277 Mallory Station Road in Cool Springs from 10 to noon. For more details, visit thegamenashville.com/events. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. Jordan Matthews will be with us at 8 o'clock, former Vanderbilt receiver, current tight end in the NFL. Still checking along in the NFL. We'll be joined by Jordan Matthews coming up at 8 o'clock. Cam Ward, Joe, apparently working out down there in Miami. And I guess this is like a workout feed, like some footage from his workout in Miami that they've put together on YouTube that then got aggregated by pretty much everybody yesterday. The NFL Twitter account put this out there. They put it out all over Instagram. And Cam Ward's down there working out. And the subject of Calvin Ridley came up, and Cam Ward's impressions of Ridley to this point. And the Titans quarterback had some glowing praise for Calvin Ridley. Here's what Cam Ward had to say on the footage that we saw yesterday.
That boy there, different. How he move, everything. Now that I like see what a receiver's supposed to be like that's what I'm glad. Like Elliott, Chim, Strep, Bryce, all the guys in our room. I'm glad they got him because like I ain't never threw no receiver like him, move like him, can cut like him, and that boy he ain't selfish either. Like he want the rookies, all of us. He want us to do better than him because he gonna end up getting his one-on-ones.
So Cam Ward, strong words there about Calvin Ridley. Says he loves that they've got Calvin Ridley in that room. He loves that all the young guys can follow his examples, as he's never thrown to a receiver like him before, and the way that he can cut and he can move. And this is interesting to me, Joe, because it goes with what we talked about with TD a few weeks ago too, of, TD mentioned Ridley being pretty intentional, making up new words.
That's a good word though.
Intentional about being more of a leader this year, leading by example, trying to set the example maybe better than he did a year ago, especially with the youth in that room. And I wonder, like, if Calvin Ridley has a different approach this year, and he is clearly the leader of that room right now. You've got Lockett coming in, who I think is going to help with that a lot, because Lockett off the field, I think, is going to be really valuable for this group. What could this mean for Ridley on the field? A couple things here. I mean, this is year 2 for him in this offense. It's been a while since he's had year 2 in an offense. You have to go all the way back to his Atlanta days for that. I mean, we have talked about his 2020 season where he got targeted 143 times, 90 catches, 1,374 yards, 9 touchdowns. And that was the year before he got injured in Atlanta in 2021. And then in 2022, obviously he didn't play because of the gambling suspension. So since then, it's been 1 year in Jacksonville, 1 year in Tennessee, and it's been a while since he's been in the same offense. So Cam Ward clearly loves him. We've talked about how important that connection is and building it early. I wonder what all this means for Calvin Ridley and the type of production we're going to see from him on the field this year, because all the leadership stuff is great and that's important. And I hope that's what he's doing. I hope that's what it leads to with the young guys. But really what I care about with Calvin Ridley is how productive is he going to be. And I wonder what that's going to look like for him in year 2 of this offense.
Yeah. I'm a little skeptical in general. I guess on all fronts. I'm also very much like beware the teammate talking up another teammate. I think especially the young teammate talking to another teammate. I think of A.J. Brown and what he said of Racey McMath early in his career. Now then it
kind of reminds me of Julio Jones.
I mean, Byard was a veteran when he told us that Ferkser was, who did he say?
Top flight tight end.
Top flight. But he didn't compare him to somebody?
I don't think he actually threw out a comparison.
Okay. He didn't say
But
he's Tony Gonzalez.
Top flight tight end.
All right. Yeah. Top flight. Yeah. Yeah. Just the teammate talking up the teammate thing. I typically kind of, okay, player speak, coach speak, et cetera, et cetera. And look, with this franchise in particular, you go back a year ago on the coach speak front. Again, I believe that Brian Callahan meant what he said, but what he said about Will Levis and what he ended up seeing from him, and we all saw from him, 2 very different things. But could, to me, the bigger question, like, is Ridley, could he be in for a big year? It does seem like there's a connection with him. And that's, I think, TD has said that on our show, and I know on other shows too. Like, that's one of the biggest things that jumps out to him is that Ward and Ridley seem to have a connection. And obviously, all through camp last year, we were wondering if Levis and Ridley were going to get on the same page. So there's one of those things where practice can maybe tell you something. It told us something about what was going to happen in the season, because there were games where I wondered if Ridley was on the team.
Yep.
So maybe it'll tell us this year that Ridley is going to have a better year, and because Ward and Ridley have a great connection. So that's, I think the leadership stuff, that's fine. I don't. He needs to lead by being the most productive guy in the room.
I agree.
I think you're right. Like, Lockett is definitely a guy who that's kind of his bag. But it's good. It's a good thing if Ridley wants to bring young receivers along, and if he's happy, and if he just has a better wavelength going with his QB than he did last year.
Well, I mean, the thing that's interesting to me is there was so much that went wrong last year on the Titans' offensive side of the ball. I mean, you mentioned it. Ridley had some games early in the year with Levis last year where, those two, I don't know if they could have stood 5 yards apart from each other and thrown a completed pass. Like, it was bad last year, early in the year between those two. You had the offensive line play, which I think affected some of the routes that they were able to run, and maybe some of the routes Ridley specifically was able to run because, they need him to get down the field, and with that offensive line, it was hard to wait on guys to get down the field. So you got all this going on, and he still ends up with 64 catches for 1,017 yards and has 15.9 per catch, which is the best number of his career. So I look at it and I say, even though he is now on the other side of 30, what could that mean if you get better quarterback play and better offensive line play? Like, does he have another 1,300-yard season in him? If everything around him was that bad last year, and frankly, if he was that bad for the first part of the year and he still ended up with 64 catches and 1,017 yards, what could that mean for him this year if things are better around him?
Yeah, there's definitely moments when you watch him in the acceleration and things like that. You're like, man, there's some big time talent there. The way, Cam Ward was just on there, like the way he moves, the way he cuts, no question. Now Lenny points out on the text line.
It's a very good point.
Yeah, of course. Ridley's the best receiver he's ever thrown to. He's only played in college and high school so far. Right. Now, sometimes especially in college, you may end up with a great receiver. The thing is, the best receiver he's thrown to before this is Xavier Restrepo, who some people think is going to be the number one receiver on the Titans this year. I don't think that's going to happen. But yes, that's exactly right. He's a rookie coming into the NFL, and it's a different level of talent. So you obviously have to keep that in mind here too. But let me ask you this. If Ridley does have a really good year this year, does that mean Rand cooked? Did Rand cook? Did, in retrospect, was there some cooking going on from the Randster? I'm just saying.
Maybe so. What if Skoronski plays good this year? Ridley plays good.
There's just
Levis gets into a game and he throws for 350 yards and they put him right back on the bench. A lot of things could happen in Rand's favor this year.
It's just a delicious casserole that we didn't realize was just slow baking in the oven all along.
Take your thoughts on Calvin Ridley and the Titans. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, the game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. I got some tickets to give away. A pair of tickets to see Coheed and Cambria at Ascend Amphitheater coming up on Wednesday, September the 3rd. Big call at 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025.
By the way, Alex Doherty, who I share many musical interests with.
You a Goose fan? He is.
No, not everything, but we like a lot of the same stuff. He came back at me yesterday and he said, don't put System of a Down in like the puddle of mud, crappy post-grunge copycat bands. That's not fair to them.
Don't put System of a Down, he would say.
There you go. Exactly. Okay. So he sent me a song. He's like, listen to this song. I haven't listened to it yet, but I will. Okay. So I'm not.
He told me to listen to it, and I said, okay, whatever.
Well, I was busy yesterday, but I attend to my gout. But I'll probably never get to the point of calling them SOAD. Like, was that Avances yesterday? Yeah, trying to rip the Beatles. And also the fact that your Beatles take already makes me question everything about you, Avances. But I will give System of a Down a chance. So I trust Alex, and I just want to say I kind of ripped him yesterday, and I just threw him into that, what are the band? Yeah, like just, whatever. Blur?
Yeah. Puddle of Mud.
No, Blur is a great band.
I didn't know you like Blur.
Oh,
okay.
yeah. No, well, Blur is nothing like those bands. Yeah, like the post-grunge bands. Yeah, like Puddle of Mud. Well, Bush.
You get
Creed.
People get mad at your Bush hatred.
But that's what they are. Bush, Creed,
yeah,
Puddle of Mud, I guess Incubus. These bands like this, I just, Godsmack, whatever, right? He says System of a Down should be. Blur, I didn't mean to hijack this segment. Blur, Oasis, Radiohead was kind of like the 90s Brit rock like feud. Radiohead might be the best band of all time. Blur, I would put ahead of Oasis. I mean, I love Oasis.
You keep coming up with a lot of might be best bands of all time that are really just pushing the Beatles down. Beatles keep falling further and further down your list.
Yeah, well, it's almost it's like it's like my XL 102 back home in Richmond, Virginia. They do the classic rock top like 500 or 200 every year, and they take Stairway to Heaven out, and they take Freebird out. Those two are already. Like you can't even vote for them. They are 1-2 and leave it alone. And then let's all vote for that's like the Beatles. The Beatles are, you set them to the side. They are the best band emeritus. And then you go ahead and talk about Radiohead, Zeppelin, U2, whatever you want to do.
All right.
Okay.
Keith talking about Rand Carthon says Rand cooks with a crock pot. We were just too blind to know it at the time. A little bit of a slow cook for Rand in this roster.
See? And JR on YouTube says, "Oh, Rand absolutely cooked, but he farting Burt ramen." So apparently, did someone say fart you, but not fart yesterday on the afternoon program?
I don't know.
Is that what happened? Did we hear about this?
Don't know.
Apparently, you're in charge of this place now, Ian. Chase is gone. You need to deal with these things.
I can or cannot confirm.
Okay, so I see. Your coy smile tells me you know about this. Well, I'm sorry for bringing it up. Someone texted me about it and I missed it.
I don't know.
Sorry, FCC.
Papa Roach. Got to vote for Papa Roach.
Oh, I saw Papa Roach back in spring break, senior year of high school, Club La Villa, Panama City Beach, baby.
Okay.
Oh,
were they good?
Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah.
And it was raining, and it was like, but that was like, I think when that song first came out.
What is their song? I don't even know. I mean,
Last Resort.
Last Resort.
What? Yeah. How's it go?
It's the cut my life into pieces. This is my life. You probably don't know it.
Yeah,
I'll
play it real quick. You'll know it.
Yeah. Disturbed, a texter says another good example.
Yeah. I kind of like Disturbed.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. Texter saying Radiohead got 2 up in their own butt after OK Computer. Don't even start with me, man. Kid A with now. Don't even. We're not going to go down this rabbit hole.
Club La Villa, man. I was in PCB a couple years ago, doing a nighttime walk on the beach, and I looked over and saw what I believe, I guess is, I don't know if it's now defunct or just rarely used, Club La Villa over there, but I mean, there was no one there. And it just kind of, you could still look at it and see like just underage drinking and all sorts of other things going on over there.
This is the first time I've heard of it.
It's Papa Roach.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that great example of, hey, we suck, but let's try to sound like bands who used to be good, who are good. Yeah. No, that's a great example. So people are getting all over me over emeritus. It's emeritus. Emeritus? How do you say that word?
I don't know how you pronounce that word. I've only ever written that word.
Yeah, me too. Like I guess I've never heard it said. Like,
I've never heard anyone use that word ever.
Emeritus? I said emeritus. Help us out. Uncle Cracker. There's a great. Oh boy, yes. We got some real buttes out there. What were we going to talk about this segment?
Well, it was about Rand cooking, and now we lost that. That's okay.
The slow boil.
Apparently, Club La Vila has been empty. We can confirm via the text line. So,
good times.
Back in the day.
Such a shame.
It's such a shame that's gone. Casey says, Joe, you disappoint me. You slurred the Godsmack name as a post-grunge band as a flash in the pan. That band is a major hard rock band and in a class by themselves. Also, really big fan of Papa Roach and Breaking Benjamin, apparently.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm just biased because Godsmack is the name of an Alice in Chains song on one of the great albums of all time, Dirt. So it's like you're not only you're just copying like good bands, you're just taking like one of their song names and making it your band name. But look, I'm also not going to lie and tell you that I've extensively gone through the collections of these bands. I just think they suck. I'm sorry. 3 Days Grace. There we go.
There's another one.
Oh, boy.
It takes me back to about, 2007. Good stuff there.
Is it? Yeah, that recent.
They had some stuff, yeah. Then.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure they had stuff before that, but yeah.
Okay. So tell me how to say emeritus.
It does kind of sound like a disease.
Professor Emeritus.
Emeritus.
Oh, it's emeritus. You know what? I did.
Sciatica.
You're right.
Are you saying sciatica?
Emeritus. Yeah.
Sciatica.
I'm sorry. This is not as bad as sciatica. It was pretty dumb.
Emeritus.
Emeritus.
I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and take shots at you because, again,
someday you could be like me and get gout.
I've never heard anyone actually say that word. I've only ever seen it written.
Emeritus.
So
there you go. That. Yeah. Oh, man, this emeritus is really acting up again.
You imagine getting the emeritus and the gout together. I mean, that'd be real tough to overcome.
That's a deadly combo. That's the PBJ of diseases.
Emeritus.
I'm sorry.
Man, the people.
But those bands still suck.
People are really mad on the text line. It's emeritus, Joe.
Between the emeritus and the bad bands they want to tell me are good. It's a lot going on right now.
Do we think Brian Callahan has a favorite band? What do we think that is? Maybe that's what, it gets to a point in training camp where they start asking him the same stuff every day. And it's like, all right, maybe let's spice this thing up a little bit.
Well, I have some information on this. So, yeah, the Titans had a little informal session. I guess this would have been sometime last spring, right? It was with Ran, Chad, and Brian, Callahan, Brinker, and Carthon. And they kind of hang around the room. Writers sitting around, and Brian Callahan and I started talking about the Rage Against the Machine concert he went to. Okay. And I was like, dude, that is badass. And I'm really mad I never saw them too. So Brian Callahan has good musical taste. Meanwhile, we have Brandon saying, Joe, go listen to Dream Theater and then try to tell me the Beatles are talented.
There you go.
Bro, stop texting.
Team Brandon.
Put down the phone. Please help yourself. Help us all.
Brian Callahan, a big Rage Against the Machine fan.
Brian Callahan has been to a Rage Against the Machine concert, and I freaking respect
That's a level up in my book.
Hell yes.
No doubt.
Good to know.
Absolutely.
Used to love some Rage Against the Machine.
Their first album is all-timer, man.
I think Amy's a big Rage Against the Machine fan.
What's that?
Amy, big Rage Against the Machine fan.
Probably not.
At the end of if she's, at the end of the year deciding on a tiebreaker of whether or not to fire him.
Fire you won't do what you told me.
Brad, I was going to can your ass, but you big Rage Against the Machine fan. We're keeping you on.
Okay. On those fox hunts. I mean,
she's on the foxes with a Rage Against the Machine and like a Walkman going down.
This was one of our best segments ever.
Her hype music before her.
Yeah, we really knocked it out of the park with this segment.
Great segment.
They're going to put this one in the Hall of Fame one day. More likely, the moment we get fired, this is going to be the first segment they play. Be like, this is why we finally got rid of these two morons. We'll have the Rob rant coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Don't make me angry.
Sometimes you have to tell someone to pound sand.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
This is the Rob Rant. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
I'm not very good at assessing bodies with shirts on in terms of great weight loss.
Naked bodies to assess them better.
I do. Shirts off.
Derrick Henry still going.
No, in seriousness, she did start also like a fox hunting society in like San Antonio. I'm not making that up.
Pumpkin outfit. I did run into a witch around Breakfast Nook, not my wife.
Stays in bounds. He might go 99 yards.
Geographically,
There's not a south part of Detroit.
It's just
North,
east,
south,
and west.
east. It is that time of the day. The Rob Rant here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Your thoughts in the meantime?
I hate this song, but that's fine.
I still.
It's their 202nd best song, and yet they're still the best of all time by far.
That's good. Glad they made that banger. We just came back in with. Ooh. One texter says that last segment was one of the segments of all time. It did happen.
It was a segment.
It was a segment. It did go down that way. By the way, I mean, I'm looking this up. Amy Adams Strunk, president of Canada Foxhounds, a fox hunting organization. So you're not making that up.
Fart you, I won't do what you told me.
The more you know. So Jeremy Fowler has come out with this list that he has now come out. I believe this is the 6th year of this. So it's ranking the top 10 players at 11 different positions. And it's not just him putting together a list. It's coaches, league executives, scouts, the whole thing. So it's not Jeremy Fowler's list. It is what he compiles from all these people. And the one with running backs came out yesterday. Now, some context on this. This is not about like how would you rank the running backs from last year. It's 2025. You're looking at the running back position. How do you think this is all going to end up shaking out here? So with that in the backdrop, it makes what I'm about to say, I guess, a little bit more tolerable. Derrick Henry's at number 2 on this list, which is fine. I think it's about where Derrick Henry should be. Like, it's hard for me to have really any other combination of Barkley and Henry at 1 or 2, right? Like, it's hard for me to get there.
Yep.
Having anybody else based on the way that those two guys played last year. And in Henry's case in particular, showing absolutely zero signs of slowing down at this point. The highest ranking that Henry had was number 1, which, duh. The lowest ranking was 6. And what I'd love to know is who put Derrick Henry at 6th? Like, who takes a look at where the running back position is right now, what he just did running for 2,000 yards, and said, yeah, I think that guy's at 6. I think I'll put him at number 6. I understand he's 31. I understand at some point that the slowdown is coming. Yeah. But don't we kind of need to see a little bit of evidence of a slowdown before we're just like, yeah, 6. There's 5 better than him right there.
It's insane. And I need to know who it is. I need to know. Give me the top 5. Give me your top 5 after last season. After what you saw from Derrick Henry last season, there's no justification.
No,
it's absurd. It's like, so whoever did this, you should want to raise your hand and tell everybody. Or what that tells me is that you're trying
to be contrarian. Yeah.
Or you just didn't take it seriously and you did this in 5 seconds without thinking, in which case, why would you include someone like that?
Right. Like Barkley, the highest ranking was 1, obviously, and the lowest ranking was 2, which is about right. Like nobody on this who was involved with this put Barkley anywhere lower than 2. I'm not even saying you got to do that with Henry, even though that's what I would do. Like he would be 1 or 2 on my list. But when you get down to 6, it's like, you really think there are 5 backs that are going to be better than Derrick Henry this year?
So give me the other names then.
So Jahmyr Gibbs is at 3. Now, some of this is age, right? Like Jahmyr Gibbs is 23 years old. So he's got good offensive line.
We're not ranking what's going to happen in the next 5 years.
Right. You're talking about right now. Bijan Robinson is at number 4, who again is 23 years old. And he's been good. Like he's been a good player.
Good.
McCaffrey's at 5. That's the one where I'm like, I mean, McCaffrey can't stay healthy at this point.
Yeah, like when he plays, he's still really good.
Right. But he's not healthy all that much anymore. So he's at 5. Josh Jacobs is at 6. And look, I like Josh Jacobs, but Josh Jacobs is not Derrick Henry.
No. And the thing is, like, Gibbs is electric. He's a very talented player. He also until David Montgomery got hurt last year, then he became the primary. But I mean, he's in a classic total split the workload thing.
Yeah.
And to me, you also need the guys who are carrying the mail for their teams, Derrick Henry and freaking the guy we've
Saquon.
my gosh, thank you. Brain emeritus. I mean, that's a different, that also to me belongs in a different category, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think there's any justification for Derrick Henry third. I really don't.
Yeah. I mean,
I like Bijan is really good. And so I think certainly you could see a future here where he's one of the top couple guys. But right now at this moment, I don't think it's defensible to vote Derrick Henry 3. 6 is embarrassing as hell.
It is kind of amazing. Last year, he was apparently number 9 on this list. Now, you're talking about
that back then,
before.
I could buy it. I mean, his numbers were what they were. And we know now he was
the victim of terrible circumstances.
He was imprisoned by the Tennessee Titans at the end of his time here.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, at that point, fine. After last year, there's just no way you can pretend that you watched football in 2024.
Like at this point with Derrick Henry, I mean, again, you're talking about a guy that just ran for right on the verge of 2,000 yards again. So I understand that at some point he is going to slow down. I don't know when that's going to be because, I mean, right now he's showing zero signs of it. I mean, not only did he run for 2,000 yards last year, but he had the best yards per carry of his career last year in Baltimore. Now, some of that is obviously the situation that he's in with Lamar Jackson and the attention that he occupies with defenses. So I understand that. But the idea that you could put him 6 on this, I saw that yesterday and I was, I looked at it, I was like, okay, Saquon 1, Derrick Henry 2. Okay, that's fine. Who's 3? Jahmyr Gibbs? Oh, okay, whatever. That's fine. And then I looked up at the lowest ranking and somebody had Derrick Henry 6. I was like, who was that? Fowler needs to come out and just to say, this is who this was, who voted Derrick Henry number 6.
This is so I'm clear. The voting panel is made up of
executives, coaches, and scouts.
Yeah. It's so ridiculous. People actually in the league. Like if you're Jeremy Fowler and whoever it is tells you that, aren't you like, hey, are you sure? Like before I write this down in ink. Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
6.
Just want to make sure you saw the question properly.
Who hates Derrick Henry? Like who is this like some scout for the Bills because he destroys them every time he plays them or something? Is this like some personal vendetta maybe?
Is it Vrabel?
Vrabel's just trying to motivate Derrick.
Yeah.
Vrabel's trying to
if he'd have ran for 2,000 yards my last year in Nashville, maybe I'd still be there.
Yeah. Well, if you had an offensive line, maybe you would have been.
615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. We'll be joined by Jordan Matthews coming up next. They got a really cool event coming up this weekend that we'll tell you more about, and we'll get into a lot of different things with Jordan. The current state of college football, the NIL part of it, his playing career in the NFL, all those things that are coming up next. So looking forward to that. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan today as the Nashville Sounds take on Durham. Pregame beginning at 5:20. First pitch at 5:35. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Sounds baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. And we are very happy to go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Jordan Matthews to the program. Vanderbilt legend, NFL wide receiver and tight end. Jordan, good morning. How are you?
I'm blessed, guys. How you doing?
Doing awesome, man.
Great.
Really appreciate you taking time to be with us. So, Jordan, let's start here. There's a really cool event coming up on Friday, the Vandy Legends charity softball game at Hawkins Field. Doors are going to be opening up at 5 o'clock. There's a home run derby that's going to be a part of it. You've got the softball game itself. The proceeds are going to Eli's house. And if people out there are looking for tickets, you can find them on MatthewsMission.com. But tell us a little bit about the game itself, what the cause is, and what we're doing this weekend out at Hawkins Field.
Yeah, man, we're really excited about this one. So the game, basically the format is Vandy Legends. So I've got a lot of my, some friends that I played with and guys that really made an impact, guys and girls. I got, Trent Sherfield coming back. He's an 8-year vet with the Denver Broncos. Oren Burks, who just won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. My guy, Tony Kemp, is partnering with me on this. Tony just retired from the MLB, 9 seasons, played with the Oakland A's, won a World Series with the Houston Astros, SEC Player of the Year, SEC Freshman of the Year, one of the best baseball players in Vanderbilt's baseball history. He's coming out. Michaela Blakes, I don't know if y'all know about this girl, man.
Oh, yeah.
Phenomenal. Literally, I think I think she's top 3 basketball players in the country. You got Juju Watkins coming back, but Michaela, I think she's going to be a household name soon in women's basketball.
Yep.
And Mr. Vanderbilt himself, Diego Pavia, is coming out. So I got Vandy Legends coming out, and then I've got my celebrity friends from the city, some people that I've met over the years and built relationships with. They're going to be represented by the Nashville Stars, that group that's trying to work on bringing a Major League Baseball team to Nashville. So I got Vandy Legends versus the Nashville Stars at Hawkins Field, the baseball mecca in Nashville, to raise money for an amazing cause for Eli's house. And I can talk a little bit more about Eli's house next.
Yeah, we definitely want to get that information. I did want to ask you quickly, Jordan, about you mentioned Pavia. I have to get your thoughts on one, just him as a player, what he did for the program last year, what beating Alabama does for the program, but also recently he's on with Taylor Lewan on his podcast and talking a little smack to Tennessee too. Yeah. What did you think about that, and just what do you think the impact of Diego has been?
Well, he doesn't lack confidence, that's for sure, right? And the thing about Diego, though, is it's real. You know what I'm saying? I tell guys all the time, before a game, everybody's jumping up, everybody's talking smack. And I would just sometimes, before games, whether it was college or pro, I would just sit back and watch. Because I'm like, a lot of this juice is fake. Some of this juice don't got pulp in it. You know what I mean? Like, some of these guys ain't real. And it always shows, Mike Tyson's always say, everybody got a plan until they get hit. So I always could kind of differentiate whether somebody was going to like show up and be who they said they were, or if they were going to revert back to just kind of being a guy. And Diego is like, he's got the it, man. He's a straight up dog. I remember watching the Virginia Tech game. I was telling somebody this. We came to that game last year. The first drive, I'm looking around like, does anybody see what I see right now? Like, okay, maybe I'm crazy. The second drive, he's still putting the team on his back. I'm like, I think we got something here. By halftime, I think I would have let Diego Pavia babysit my children. That's how much I trusted this dude, man. He just had it, and he didn't stop. And so it's hard in football to find guys that are not just a flash in the pan, but that can have sustained success, right? And Diego put it on tape the entire year. So when he goes out and says something like that on Bussin' with the Boys, plus I know Will and Taylor, I know they're gassing him, but if he goes and says something like that, to me, that's not talking smack. That's a regular Tuesday conversation for Diego Pavia. So I'm excited for him. I know it's going to raise the level of pressure on the organization, but when Vanderbilt is being talked about, that's good for Vanderbilt. That is great for Vanderbilt. So I'm happy about it.
Well, there's no doubt about that. And, it's interesting because as you're watching all this go on, you've got obviously your own playing career that you're focused on and that you're worried about, but you're watching Vanderbilt do what they did last year. There's all this NIL conversation, not only around them, but in college football in general. What do you make of kind of where college football is right now and how Vanderbilt fits into that landscape?
You know, when the NIL thing first came about, we had an NIL meeting with a few alumni. And I actually said, I think this is the best thing for Vanderbilt football, because now you can somewhat even the playing field, because now it's all based on how much do you monetarily want to invest into the program. So at that point, it does, because when it comes to recruiting, you can go out and you can try and go get a bunch of guys, but at the same time, only so many players meet the requirements to be at Vanderbilt. I was telling somebody in athletics, if you really think about it, if you want to go look up the top 5 players at each position that meet the grade point averages and scores that you need to get into Vanderbilt, you can go find the top 5 people that fit those requirements that play that position and just say, what's your price? We want to get you to Vanderbilt. There's all this relationship, all this swaying stuff. That stuff matters. But now that it's down to a dollar amount, I think it does make it a little bit easier for Vanderbilt to compete, because now you can say, well, if we're willing to, you know, fight this battle with our wallet, then we actually can cover some ground, as opposed to when it was a facilities arms race. You know how long it is to put facilities together to compete with Alabama or they've had some of those things around for 10, 20, 30 years. You start building a facility to try and compete, it's going to take you 5 to 10 years to complete it all. Well, now it's not a facilities arms race anymore. It's all about how much are you willing to pay the players. It's going to come down to scouting. And I think in the next 5 years, it's going to look a lot more like the NFL than it ever did college football. So if you can put people together that can find talent, scout it, go out and get the right people, I think it puts us at a way better opportunity to compete. So I'm excited about where NIL is for what it's going to do for Vanderbilt.
Yeah, and like you said, you have the facilities race. And that's something where Vanderbilt was, so far behind for so long. Of course, they did get. I mean, a lot of stuff has been done now on campus. I mean, it's still coming together, but pretty soon it's going to be a pretty cool little village down there, and obviously the football stadium is going to look a lot different. What about just first of all, obviously Candace Lee and the job she's done as AD, but also Daniel Diermeyer as chancellor. It seems like this is maybe the first time in a long time, or I don't know, ever that a chancellor at Vanderbilt has been this pro sports, right?
Yeah, Chancellor Diermeyer's been he's been phenomenal in that role of letting Clark and Candace know that he supports everything that they want to do with sports. And I truly believe this. When you have the right people in place, then you don't have to worry about if we invest in them, can this go bad? Like, Candace's character, her ability to get people, in the right position to do the jobs that are best suited for them. She's going to do everything in her power to make him look like the smartest chancellor out there. And then at the same time, Clark, every time we talk, he's always mentioning how much he's thankful to have a boss like Candace. So when there's that much cohesiveness amongst the organization at the top, it's only going to look good at the bottom. When I was at the 49ers, people wonder how the San Francisco 49ers been kind of a contender in the NFC for this long. Well, between Kyle Shanahan, the Yorks, and John Lynch, there's a cohesiveness that's very easy to see at the top, where they're all communicating, they all have a mutual respect for each other, and then that flows throughout the rest of the organization. Vanderbilt now has that leadership at the top. I'm not saying that it didn't have that same thing when I was in school. I was blessed with great leaders at the top. I can't speak highly enough about David Williams and the impact he had on me and the rest of the athletes when I was here playing. And obviously my coach, James Franklin, I can't brag on those guys enough. But what Vanderbilt has right now, and I think what's happening with NIL, who we have here are perfectly situated for the task at hand that's needed right now. And so I'm excited to see where they take it.
So, Jordan, what about you? I mean, you put together a great 10-year career for yourself. You're still going. You've made the transition from wide receiver to tight end. What's all of that been like as you've been working through that the last couple of years, and how we feeling about where things are heading into year 11?
Well, I always feel good. So, and it's deceiving because it says 11 kind of on paper because I had to do a year. We called it a redshirt year when I went to tight end, so it kind of didn't count.
Right.
But this will actually be my 12th year professionally. Once I get on a team going into this year, so I feel great. My body feels good. My mind is sharp. Last year with the Panthers was very good for me, especially from the standpoint of I continue to. I guess solidify myself as a tight end. But the other thing I did was I became kind of a four-core special teamer. I had a couple games that I got to go out there and also contribute on special teams. And so now I've kind of added that feather in my cap as well. I'll say that honestly, you know, I got to a point where playing the game of football, it had nothing else to do with what it did for me. Football has given me everything I need and more. Now it's more about what does it do for the people around me? I remember when my son was like 3, I told my wife, I want to play long enough for him to know what I'm doing. And I prayed that prayer probably silently, but I know I acted on it every single day. And last year during the preseason, we played the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo on my oldest son's birthday. He turned 6. And my wife flew him up. She only brought Josiah. They went to Niagara Falls that morning, and she brought him to the game. And I scored a touchdown in that game, and I brought him the football. And he's going to remember that. That ball is sitting at the house right now, and it says, like, you know, JoJo's touchdown ball versus the Bills. So, like, those are the things that keep me going. You know, when I see my kids, I'm so motivated to show them what it looks like for a man to get up and go to work every day. And I want them to know, like, this was my passion. The thing that I do next, I'm going to take the same energy, fire, tenacity, and focus to it. But, man, this is what I always wanted to do growing up. And by the grace of God, I've been able to do it, man, pretty much my whole life. So it's a blessing for sure.
And how awesome is that?
Talking to Vanderbilt legend, NFL veteran Jordan Matthews. Okay, so you were at Tight End University then, correct? So, like,
yes,
when Taylor Swift came out on stage at Brooklyn Bowl, like, were you like crowd surfing? Like, what was that like?
No, I'll be honest. I did not expect to meet Taylor the way we did because we were. It was actually the night before we were on the rooftop of the Thompson, and I've gotten to know Travis kind of here and there. You know, I've played with his brother Jason for a while in Philly, so we probably knew each other from afar. And then we had all these little run-ins, and there's just kind of been this mutual respect. And, you know, Travis is an amazing person also, too. I think this added fame, actually for him, he wants to make sure when he meets people, they know, like, hey, I don't care about all that fame stuff. I'm a real dude. Like, he makes it a point to make people understand that he is grounded, that he's a humble guy. And so we've always been able to keep a good relationship throughout. So I went over to say something to Travis. I had my wife with me. And Taylor walked over to my wife, Shayna, and said, "Oh, my gosh, you look so beautiful." Like, it just started, like, she was so nice. And the whole time I'm thinking, man, I thought I was going to have to get, like, backstage passes, get thousands of dollars. And here she is right here, you know, biggest pop star in the world. So, but she was so nice. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I think I thought she might have gotten overwhelmed, but she did it in stride, man. I think her and Travis knew, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to spend some time with his community. And I think it was a good look for both of them. I think they both had fun. And the Brooklyn Bowl thing was a surprise to all of us. I actually had a chance, though, to talk to my guy, Luke Combs. And I love that. I had never been to a country concert, admittedly. Sorry, my Nashville fans, but I never went to a country concert until last year. I had a friend call me and say, hey, I got an extra ticket to Luke Combs. And I'm like, who? Like, you know what I'm saying? And then he was like, bro, trust me, you're going to want to see this. We pulled up to Nissan Stadium, and there was not an empty seat in there, and he crushed it. I'm like, this is my guy now. And he was in his stage presence, everything. And so I met Luke there. He's a big Panthers fan, and we talked Panthers football for about 45 minutes, man. Great artist, even better person. But I met so many people. Jordan Davis. It was a phenomenal night, man, that George and Kelsey set up.
So, Jordan, we mentioned the Vandy Legends charity softball game coming up on Friday. Tell us a little bit more about Eli's House and what this money is going towards this weekend.
Beautiful. So, Eli's House, a residential nonprofit, and their whole goal is to help women and children thrive after trauma. Now, somebody will say, well, what does that entail? Well, basically, they have a home that's in Franklin, Tennessee, so it's kind of out where it's a little bit more quaint, a little bit more quiet, and they bring some of these families in, especially some of these single moms with kids that are close to the poverty line or at risk of losing their children to the foster care system. They bring them in, and for 2 years, they give them shelter, food, trauma relief training, job skill training. They help them with, child care so they can have time to kind of map out what life looks like moving forward once they do finally leave the house. And it's all built on helping these women leave healthier than when they came in. This is not a wheelchair type foundation. This is a crutch. We're going to help you get back on your feet. We're going to support you. We see you. We love you. And we're going to build you up. So in 2 years, you get to walk out of here healthier than you were before. And the main thing that they're doing is a lot of those families where the kid will be at risk of going to the foster care system, this work is helping keep these families together. So Jenny Rustiani, who is the CEO of Eli's House, one of her main missions was to keep kids with their biological parents. We know that there's all sorts of family situations that happen, and we're grateful that any time that a child can grow up in a home with responsible people looking after them. But the statistics are very clear. If a kid is able to grow up with at least one or both of their biological parents, their chances of living a healthier, more fulfilled life do go up. They want to make sure that that happens. And so by doing what we're doing this weekend, we're going to be pouring into families that are real. Like, this is not one of those charities where somebody's like, I don't know where my money's going. You're going to know exactly where your money's going. Jenny will be there. Her head director will be there, Natalie, with a tent set up, talking to people about Eli's House mission. We're also going to have some families from Eli's House at the game. They're going to bust these women in. We're going to treat them first class and make sure they have a great time at the game. So this is a very real foundation that's helping real people. And it really spoke to my heart when my wife brought it to me. And so we're all about family with Matthew's mission. We're all about family. We want to make sure we keep some families together.
Well, again, you could check that out at MatthewsMission.com. It's the Vandy Legends charity softball game coming up on Friday. The doors open up at 5 o'clock at Hawkins Field. It's going to be a great time this weekend. And if you can't make it out to the game, go to MatthewsMission.com anyway. There's an opportunity there for you to make a donation to Eli's House. Jordan, we really appreciate your time. We're looking forward to this event coming up this weekend. Really great work by you, and appreciate so much you joining us today.
Hey, I appreciate you guys so much. Hey, if you guys get a chance to come out, please do. We got some food trucks too. I know people might not like baseball maybe, but I know they like some food. So come on, we got pizza, we got hot dogs, we got everything you need. But like I said, all for a good cause, all for a good cause. So everybody that can hear my voice right now, please come out. Hawkins Field, Friday, doors open at 5. It's going to be an amazing night. Going to be fun, and I can't wait to see you there.
Absolutely. Jordan, thank you, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jordan.
Appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. Jordan Matthews, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. We'll react to what Jordan had to say there. A lot of really good stuff from Jordan on the college football front. And again, if you're looking for tickets for Friday night, MatthewsMission.com, you can find general admission tickets there, and you can make a donation to Eli's House as well. We'll come back. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. This fall, live at the Pinnacle at Nashville Yards, Tim McGraw will be performing at Trinitix's Rock the Cradle. This event's sure to be a great time, celebrating a great cause. Proceeds from the event will support newborns and moms at Ascension St. Thomas Midtown. Get your tickets now at rockthecradlenashville.org. Appreciate Jordan Matthews for being with us in the last segment. That was really good stuff there. Really good stuff.
It was on a variety of fronts.
It was.
Great cause. The game sounds fun on Friday. Some high level of optimism about Vanderbilt football and Vanderbilt athletics.
Yes.
Loving Diego Pavia. And got to hang out with Taylor Swift. That's kind of cool.
It's
I mean, you know how that goes. Like, that's no old hat for you, but for a lot of people, it'll be like, wow, that's pretty amazing.
I mean, I'm glad Jordan finally got to join the club.
Exactly.
Good to know. And it is true. Like, I'm looking at, it lists out his career, and it's 10 years. But 2022, it just doesn't have anything for him because that was when he was making the transition from receiver to tight end. So he's been doing it since 2014 in the NFL. Look, I mean, if you watched him play in college, my God, was he good in college? He was really, really good at Vanderbilt. And then you're talking about, I mean, pretty immediate impact in Philadelphia. His first year, he had 67 catches for 872 yards and 8 touchdowns as a rookie in Philadelphia. Pretty darn good. He's carved out a nice career for himself.
No doubt. Absolutely. And, someone on the text line says, guy who can communicate like that, destined to be a good coach one day. I could see that. Or maybe, broadcasting, coaching. Yeah.
And he'd probably do whatever he wants.
Yeah, he'd probably do whatever he wants. Exactly. But I mean, I think in either path, usually if you have an NFL career of that duration, I mean, some guys obviously go into coaching. I could see it, but like Vrabel's kind of the unicorn who you made that much money and you're gonna do the coaching grind. But some guys just love ball.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be very interesting to track him and see if he can stick as a tight end too.
Do we think at this softball game on Friday that Diego Pavia is just gonna be like some madman out there? It's hard for me to imagine him like turning the switch off.
Yeah,
the competitive juices get flowing.
He's going to be going Ty Cobb on people on the base paths. Just
hey, Diego, ease it up over there, bud.
Head first slides outside the base, had to break up a double play.
Clark Lee,
I can see
running
it
on the field. Like, oh, stop!
Yeah, really. It's like, Diego, can we, just scale it back a little bit? Yeah, I mean, there's some good. So you got Clark and I think Jordan was like, yeah, if you guys don't know Michaela Blakes. No, we know Michaela Blakes, buddy. Michaela Blakes said he said she's top 3. I think that might be about right. I've said it. She's going to be a National Player of the Year.
You have?
At Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
So I think that's coming. I don't know if it's coming this year, but I think it's coming in the next couple of years.
It isn't like talking to Vanderbilt, and I understand like if you want to, you could say, well, are they ever going to say anything differently? Like if it wasn't the case. So I understand that point of view, but pretty much every person we've talked to with Vanderbilt that's even associated with Vanderbilt over the last 4 or 5 years on the NIL front is like, yeah, this is going to be really good for football. Like the NIL part of this is going to be really good for football. And I don't think that's just lip service that they're spouting off over there.
Yeah. I think Vanderbilt's just the kind of place where, I mean, if you do a good job of fundraising and of gathering your people together, you've got some clout with the Vanderbilt alumni base. Even though it's a private school, it doesn't have the huge alumni numbers that obviously the big public schools do, but you got a chance to get something done. So I mean, it's a pretty exciting time over there. Like when they get done with all of the everything going on, obviously it's so much instruction. Anybody who's been over there in the last few months, I mean, major, but when it's done, it's actually going to be really cool. And you would think, and their whole thing is like, they need to make it a place where just anyone in Nashville or people visiting Nashville, like, oh yeah, let's go check that out. That just hasn't been the case.
Well, speaking of Vanderbilt graduates, there's one that could play a pretty important role in the future of Nashville sports if things go the way that Rexrode thinks they might. We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Tomorrow afternoon, come out to Brewhouse South in Cool Springs and meet Nashville native and two-time IndyCar champion Joseph Newgarden from 5:30 to 7. Also, Big Joe will be on site for a special broadcast of Chasing Checkers from 6 to 7. Get on out to Brewhouse South tomorrow and meet Joseph Newgarden and get signed up to win tickets to the Borchetta Bourbon Music City Grand Prix. And looking forward to that coming up tomorrow and Chasing Checkers from 6 to 7. Joe, we were discussing Vanderbilt graduates. One that could play an important role in the future of Nashville sports is potentially Justin Ishbia here. We talked about him a few weeks ago, and we got into some of this earlier in the show. A lot of people have thoughts on this. The idea of the Chicago White Sox one day moving to Nashville, and I guess becoming the Nashville White Sox at that point. You know, Jerry Reinsdorf has sold the team, and Justin Ishbia is taking over sometime after 2029. And then you've got the stadium situation to figure out in Chicago. If it doesn't work in Chicago, you then have a stadium situation to figure out here if it's going to get moved. So bottom line is we're still probably a significant distance away from Major League Baseball in Nashville via this route, with Chicago maybe moving here. I think based on where things are right now, it's the best option to me. It's the most realistic option to me because there is a financial backer. Justin Ishbia is the billionaire that could come in and run things. And that's always been my question about the Nashville Stars group, which is, all right, well, who's the billionaire? Like, who's the owner that's coming in and potentially paying for a new stadium or paying the expansion fee or operating the day-to-day costs of becoming a Major League Baseball team? Like, you know, all these costs are going up in the world of sports. So who's that going to be? Well, Ishbia has ties to Nashville. He graduated from Vanderbilt. He's got a stake in Nashville SC. And there is a thought that maybe when time comes around and he takes over for the Chicago White Sox, that if they can't get things resolved up there, that this could be the landing spot. And you believe that this has a good chance of happening. What do you make of where things currently stand with the Chicago White Sox?
I think it's happening. I think it's going to happen. Not reporting that. I'm not basing it off just my own dreams in which I, say the word emeritus. But I think it's going to happen. Justin Ishbia, by the way, undergrad Michigan State. I think it was law school. I think he went to law school at Vanderbilt.
Yes.
But I think if you look at how it all lines up, could something happen in terms of a stadium to keep the Chicago White Sox in Chicago? Yes. So my guess that franchise is going to be here is based on my belief that that's not going to materialize. So if it does, then, that changes things. But I think Nashville is more than just like the threat city. We talked earlier in the show. Jerry Reinsdorf owns the team. Jerry Reinsdorf, who owns the team now, has come to Nashville, and he met with Freddie O'Connell, and much was made of that. And they, sort of like, well, just, introductory, getting to know. But of course, that's what happens a lot in pro sports is, well, you give me this, or here they want us. This is what Bud Adams did, and they didn't give him what he wanted. And, okay, see ya. Yeah. Going to Tennessee.
I mean, the New Jersey Devils almost ended up here as before the Predators got here. Like it was like, we will leave to Nashville if we can't get this lease figured out. And then ultimately they got the lease figured out.
And the Predators, though, was a different situation, but they almost ended up in Hamilton, Ontario.
That's true.
So, I mean, it happens all the time. Again, I believe that Nashville is more than just that. I think once the ownership transition takes place, now again, you're talking 2030s, right? So we're talking some time and a lot of things to develop, a lot of twists and turns. But right now, like if you say, okay, put your $10 down, or the Nashville or the Chicago White Sox going to be a Nashville baseball franchise at some point, I'm going to put it on yes. And
100%.
I'm 53. No, it does not mean I'm 100%. Santa in Portland, thank you for bringing up that absolute butchering of math that Paul Kaharski and you, right? Both of you took part in. But
I don't remember if I took part in that or not.
Yeah, I don't know. But it was butchered. It's 53%. 53, 47, Nashville White Sox, or Nashville something if they don't want to still be called the White Sox. I'd like him to still be called the White Sox because I'd like the White Sox fans in Chicago to have to deal with that every day as they shed a tear in their beer about their lost baseball
the
team.
idea of you running around in a White Sox hat is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
If you listen to this show long enough, you know that there are a certain amount of things that just are very unlikely to ever happen. That would be on that list.
I hate them very, very deeply. But if I were to wear a White Sox hat, it would be like the one from the early 80s where they have those little robot baseball players on.
Yeah.
That would be the one I would – like Greg Lazinski hat. Yeah.
Brian says, just think we could potentially get an MLB team, have a new stadium built, and playing games, all while UC Saros is still under contract with the Preds.
I mean, UC Saros coming off his 5th straight Vezina could throw out the first pitch. There you go. We had the same idea.
Fire one off the mound in the opening game out there. I mean, at this rate, they'd probably call Shea Weber to do it. He's doing everything else.
Well, he'd be very excited.
He actually probably would be excited about that one.
I mean, UC Saros, a guy who has paraded the cup around Nashville several times, won several Vezinas, coming out to the mound, throw that first pitch.
Yep. Franchise icon Steven Stamkos out there throwing the first pitch.
There
a lot of things could happen between now and then.
Trying to think.
We had somebody call in earlier.
Or you could have other like Nashville legends like Andre Johnson or Randy Moss.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of different possibilities for the first pitch.
Roy called in earlier and started talking about, the idea of, 2036. It's amazing. 2036 could come around. We could finally have a baseball team and they could be playing games and they could win a championship before the Titans and Preds even sniff it. It's like, God, I hope not.
You're already signed up for a decade of futility. That's really sad.
If the Titans and the Predators are still as far away from a championship 10 years from now as it seems like they are today, boy, is this going to be a depressing period of time here coming up for the Nashville sports fan.
My goodness. Maybe Vanderbilt's going to win some natties, and that'll fill the void. Chip from Mount Joy says, for a baseball team here, use the name for here. Sounds great name, but make it unique like the Ravens did. That was a team we didn't mention earlier. We were talking about teams that changed and teams that didn't. Yeah, the Baltimore Browns would have been weird. So you kind of knew that was going to have to change when Art Modell moved that franchise.
Got alliteration to it.
Baltimore Browns. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, first of all, just when did, I guess I need to read up on this, but like these names, Sox with an X, it's so dumb. I
have no idea the history behind that.
Yeah. The Cincinnati Reds used to be the Cincinnati Redlegs, but I mean, there's the tradition of baseball, so I kind of, that is an old.
I mean, I think if they came here, they would keep the name.
Think so?
Well, it used to be the White Stockings, apparently.
Yeah.
And then they said, no, let's make it Sox. Oh, okay, S-O-C-K-S. No, Sox, but with an X. Oh, okay. Sure.
I mean, the franchise was established in 1894. They've been in Chicago since 1900.
Where were they established?
You're asking me questions I don't know the answer to right now.
I just figured since you knew the 1894 that you might know from where.
I'm just looking at the Wikipedia. They were established in 1894. And now I'm looking at a more reliable source than Wikipedia.
The team began as the Sioux City Cornhuskers.
There you go.
And then St. Paul Saints, and then Chicago White Stockings.
Sioux City, South Dakota, huh? No, that's Sioux Falls.
It's the Sioux City Cornhuskers.
Where is Sioux City? I know Sioux Falls is in South Dakota. We are going down some great rabbit holes.
Sioux City's in
Iowa. Sioux City, Iowa. That's right. I knew that. Okay. So they started in Iowa. So this is like the build it and they will come.
So
team
per the,
that comes to Nashville eventually.
Google AI overview without a quick search to all the links.
Interesting.
Their winningest manager in team history is Jimmy Dykes, who I assume is not the college basketball analyst.
Yeah, I would think not. La Russa had a good run
Jimmy
there.
Dykes was born in 1896. So not the same guy.
I think he's based on the guy who said there's no crying in baseball in the league of their own.
I believe you may be correct.
I mean, I may be right.
Hey.
So, yeah, Tony La Russa had a good run there. They've had some very hateable teams, very punchable faces in the Chicago White Sox.
Okay, I guess they were originally a minor league team, and then they were purchased by Charles Comiskey and relocated to St. Paul.
Okay.
And then moved to Chicago in 1900.
There you go.
The famously cheap Charles Comiskey, who was so cheap and screwed his players over so much that a bunch of them bet against themselves in a World Series in 1919. That's kind of a big moment in baseball history.
When they come here, could Ozzie Guillen be the manager again?
That would be freaking amazing. That guy I think he still does TV. I think he still does like pre and post games.
Dangerous.
Like oh, it is. Oh, he says crazy stuff. It's fantastic. I'm absolutely.
I mean, he's only 61. He could, another 10 years from now, getting a couple years to launch this thing here in Nashville.
My guy Jimmy Leland was managing the Tigers at 97 years old, smoking darts. Sparky Anderson was only 50, but he looked 97 years old.
I tell you, though, like the more you think about it, I mean, you brought up A.J. Pierzynski earlier.
Oh.
But like the A.J.
An all-time
Pierzynski,
punchable face.
If you really wanted to hate the White Sox, number one, he would be where you started. But back in those days, the Ozzie Guillen part of it, too, like he could really.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought he was hilarious growing up at the time,
too.
but
yes,
I could see where somebody, if you really hated the White Sox, you would really hate Ozzie Guillen.
He's one of those things like when he was managing and also like they were good and everything, pure hatred. But now that like you do have to appreciate the guy. I mean, he's a lot of fun.
615-737-1025, our phone number. What do you make of the idea of the Chicago White Sox eventually moving to Nashville? We'll take your thoughts on that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game. The Borchetta Bourbon Music City Grand Prix coming to the Nashville Super Speedway Labor Day weekend, and 102.5 The Game has your chance to win VIP tickets to the IndyCar race. Text in the keyword RACE to 615-737-1025 to be entered for a chance to win a pair of VIP tickets. For more information on the event, visit musiccitygp.com. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar, live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership with a buzz is always about great service.
Good point by a few people in text, including Dennis. Dennis says, I'm ready to see the Pope Mobile rolling down Broadway on the way to a Nashville Sox game. Yeah,
That's
baby.
True. That is true.
And like I told somebody, it's good. I need to go to confession, so it works out perfectly. Just go right to the Pope.
Matt,
Pope give confession?
Have to ask him. He comes here
pretty busy.
Go over the what section's he in at the game?
I mean, if I buy him a Miller Lite, you know.
Matthew says if Justin Ishbia is anything like his brother who's run the Suns into the ground, then you don't want him bringing the White Sox here.
Yeah, I mean, we'll wait and see on
we have a pretty comparable example going on right here in our town right now. You know, there's Jimmy Haslam with the Browns. There's Bill Haslam with the Predators. Just because Jimmy Haslam is one way with the Browns doesn't necessarily mean that that's how Bill Haslam will be with the Predators.
And to be fair on that, when Jimmy Haslam with the Browns, it's a pretty long track record of some massive mistakes. You know, early on, obviously, the construction of that team has not worked out. I mean, Bradley Beal was in place before Matt Ishbia got there, right? Like
yep.
they were a bleep show. What he's done hasn't worked. We'll see if it does now. I wouldn't. I mean, what has he done to run them into the ground? He hasn't fixed them. There's no argument here, but it's been what, 2 years, 3 years? Like it just the team that they had, which we thought was going to be a wagon for a while, has not been. And I don't think there's too much that's specifically on him, but we'll see.
He took over as the owner of the Suns on February 7th, 2023.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're talking just over 2 years.
I mean, the big thing for obviously Bradley Beal is not at all what, and he was signed to the big deal before he got there, right? I think. Right. Yeah. So, you know, we'll see. I know that he did like the thing. He's done a couple of things with like their TV deal and with like he did the cheap concessions thing, which people liked. But yeah, you got to win. So, but I'd wait and see. I mean, they've got I mean, their head coach now is a kid in my mind. He's a great kid who I covered when he was a young kid out of college being Izzo's video guy. And he's Jordan Ott, who's the head coach, which blows my mind. It makes me feel extremely old. Great kid. I don't know if he's going to be a good NBA coach. We'll see.
One texter says some poor Blackhawks.
I call people kids who are under 40.
Yeah. Some poor Blackhawks / White Sox fan is seething at the possibility of having to root for a Nashville-based team.
Ooh, that's actually a nice, tasty thought, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's good stuff.
I love it, man. I love it.
I mean, I'm interested to see how their stadium part of it comes in. I mean, you brought up the stadium the White Sox are currently is. It's a dump. So do they ever get – when's the lease on that expire? 2029?
I think that's right.
When do they get a new stadium deal done at that point? Is there any appetite towards that in Chicago? And does, you know, again, we're 4 years out from this now, so I don't think it's like overly top of mind for a lot of those people. But as you get closer to it and the stadium starts to come up and you start to look and say, all right, there needs to be a solution here one way or the other. What's the appetite look like for a new stadium in Chicago at that point?
Yeah, look, I've my guy John Greenberg, who I work with, The Athletic. I cited him earlier, and he has expressed skepticism about this whole Nashville idea. It makes sense. One point he brought up is that Justin is building this massive, home in Chicago, things like that. But it's like, do they get competitive again? The thing is, like the money does follow the product.
Yep.
And so I hope not, just because I like when they suck, I mean,
if you're really rooting for Nashville to get the White Sox, root for them to just be absolute cheeks over the next few years.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes it less likely that you're going to have momentum. And again, right now, it does not appear that there's a lot of momentum anyway for public funded stadiums up there. And frankly, good for them. And I'd like to see less of that in the world in general.
Well, and then there becomes the question of if this all comes together, where in the world's a stadium going around here, right?
Yep.
Like, I mean, we've thrown out, a ton of different possibilities today early in the show about what that could look like, but where exactly would it be going here? So again, I understand if you're listening to this and you're thinking, man, Major League Baseball to Nashville, it sure feels like we've talked about that a lot with not much happening. And I get it because I'm kind of the same way. And really, specifically with the expansion group, it's reached the point with me where I'm like, I don't even really want to hear much about it until you tell me who's paying for it. Like, until you get the owner that has the big pockets that pays for it, until that's solved, I don't really think we're dealing in the world of realism with that. So that's where I am on that. This, not involving expansion, would be an option that, we once talked about with the Rays, and I guess it looks like they figured things out down there. But now maybe the White Sox are the most realistic option to come here.
Yeah, and something else could materialize, and this could happen way faster.
Sure.
So we'll see. But I'll add to my prediction. Not only will they come here, the stadium will be in Antioch.
Okay.
So there you go.
You're doubling down.
Yep.
You heard it here. 100% guaranteed the White Sox are coming here from Joe Rexrode, and he knows exactly where the stadium will be.
The Antioch White Sox.
He knows the address as well.
It's right by the Whataburger.
Hey, roll out of that stadium, get you a nice burger on the way home.
That's right.
Hard to beat.
I'm sorry, no free ads.
Yeah.
I just violated it.
You did.
I don't really like it very much though. So, I mean,
here's your ad.
I mean, In-N-Out Burger destroys Whataburger. I hope everybody can agree with me.
Hey, we're getting some.
There's another free ad.
Here.
I know. See, I can't talk about In-N-Out Burger because when they weren't here, I could talk freely about In-N-Out Burger because they're amazing. But I have to stop as soon as they get to town, right?
I'm really hoping it doesn't become with them like what you've talked about with your Chick-fil-A experience, where because of the scarcity of them in my life, I think it's better than it actually is. We're going to find out here pretty soon.
No, it'll happen. Yeah, absolutely. That'll happen. So savor it while you can only have it every so often. But baseball will be every day for the people of Nashville, Tennessee.
I have yet to have an In-N-Out burger. So I've never been.
Pretty good.
Oh, man.
Throw those Braves
Gotta
hats
have it.
aside. Those Cardinals hats, get rid of them. Go ahead and get in on the White Sox hats now while you can. The bandwagon's going to be large by the time they're here.
Get excited.
That's going to do it for us today on the program. Boy, did we cover a lot of ground today.
We did.
Some of it made sense. Some of it didn't, frankly. But
Sewed sucks.
At least we established that at the end of it. That's going to do it for us today. The Chase and Big Joe show with Big Joe and Nick Frazier is coming up next. Everybody have a safe rest of your Tuesday. We'll be back 6 a.m. tomorrow. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.